This episode of The Young Turks brought to you by Thrillist.
You know, they made these $38.5 billion in cuts, but nobody ever talks about what's in those cuts, right? Well, now we're beginning to finally see the agreement apparently cuts $13 billion from programs of the Department of Labor, Education, and Health and Human Services, and $1 billion more in across-the-board cuts from domestic agencies. You know, the Department of Labor is really the way to cut in the middle of massive unemployment. That's a winning strategy. And I thought the president was going to protect education, but we've got $13 billion in cuts to Education Department, as well as Labor and Health and Human Services. I thought he was going to protect healthcare too. That's interesting. There will be reductions to housing assistance programs and some healthcare programs. So the poor and the middle class get hurt again. Those will be $8 billion in cuts. Also, by the way, to the State Department and for foreign aid. So it's not like we need the State Department. We don't have turbulent times abroad, do we? Like there isn't like the most important and interesting democratic revolutions we've ever seen in our lives in the Middle East. Let's cut the State Department budget. That's a good idea. And then there is also a $2 billion set aside, there was, I should say, for the creation of a private, non-profit health insurance co-ops. Now, this is one of the central planks of the healthcare plan where they told us, don't worry, these co-ops are coming. And when the co-ops come, that will finally create competition for the private insurance market. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's been cut. What happened? I thought President Obama was going to defend his healthcare program. And I thought we were going to get choice later and not just have the private insurance companies. Well, no, that's also eliminated. Why is he agreeing to these things? All right. Also, by the way, Washington, D.C. got thrown under a bus. They took away the right of women to basically, not that their right to get an abortion, but their right to get funding for it. So good luck to you. You're going to have to go to, I guess, Maryland or Virginia. D.C. apparently does not get a vote. I thought we couldn't have taxation without representation. But no, that is not the case because Washington, D.C. controls, the federal government controls Washington, D.C.'s local budget. In fact, they are saying you also must do private school vouchers, and we're not going to pay for it. It's going to come out of your local taxes. So, sad day for Washington. Eleanor Holmes Norton said that she talked to Harry Reid and President Obama, and they assured her that Washington would not be thrown under a bus. And, of course, they did not deliver on those assurances. Shocking, I know. So, those things are gone. But here's my favorite cut. The IRS is being cut, tax enforcement. Now, get a load of how little sense that makes. First of all, the Government Accountability Office just released a study showing that at the end of fiscal year 2010, that $330 billion in taxes have not been paid. Okay? Now, who's not paying their taxes? Is it you? From time to time, sure, it could be the poor or the middle class, but generally speaking, the middle class is afraid to get audited, and if you get audited, you get crushed, and you don't have the resources to fight it, and it's a massive problem, right? No, the people who are avoiding their taxes are the people with a lot of taxes in the top brackets. It's not my theory, it's the facts. When they look to see who's avoiding the taxes, it is massively, disproportionately, the richest people in the country. Because, look, to be fair to them, I guess they have more of an incentive to avoid taxes because, since they make so much more money, they don't want to pay taxes on it, right? So, and a lot of them do chicanery that is legal, which I think is a huge problem in the first place, is all the loopholes. And some of them don't bother with the chicanery. They just don't pay their taxes. And they figure they're not going to audit me. In fact, I'll pay some of my congressmen to make sure they don't audit me. Now, it doesn't work on a specific basis. It doesn't say Rob Johnson to make up a name. Can't go and say, all right, make sure you don't audit me. But what they do is they buy Republican congressmen en masse, and they say, conveniently cut the IRS budget so nobody gets audited, so we can just keep not paying our taxes and keep extra millions of dollars in our pockets. And lo and behold, of course, that is exactly what the Republicans deliver. Now, it doesn't make any sense if you care about balancing the budget, which is the so-called stated purpose of the Republicans. Absolutely not. According to a study, every dollar spent at the IRS returns $10 in revenue because they go and find these tax cheats and they audit them and they get back $10 for every dollar that they spend. It is if you care about revenue to the United States government and you care about everybody paying their fair share, there is no better investment than the IRS. Now, could there be a scenario in which the IRS is too vigilant at some point? Of course there could be. Are we anywhere near that? Not even remotely close. We got $330 billion sitting out there of unpaid taxes because the IRS doesn't have enough resources to chase down the tax cheats. And the Republicans love that. So what do? In this plan that the president has agreed to, they have cut the IRS to make sure that we get less money into our budget because they're doing their real job, which is to protect their rich donors. So that is among the reasons I get frustrated at the president. He has given away, all these things, and he says, well, both sides had to give. What did they give? They gave nothing. The Democrats, like you said, are bragging about how they protected Planned Parenthood and they protected the EPA, but those rules already existed. It reminds me of the negotiation I used to do when I was in business school. I was in labor management class, and we had to do these fake negotiations. I was management; they were the other side was labor, and I figured out the trick, which is you lie to the opponents, and you say, for example, my line was, "I really care about dental." Because they don't know what my real priorities is. That's how the game is played when you do hypotheticals, right? And I said, look, I cannot give you dental under any circumstance. But in reality, in my sheet, it said dental's not that important, okay? But I insisted, no dental, no dental, no dental, okay, in terms of benefits. So then I got them to give me all these things that I actually wanted. And then at the end, I said, all right, fine, you get dental. Okay? And I scored the highest, whatever you call it, the highest number of points, I guess, in that negotiations game, in that labor management class, according to the professor, ever, okay? The highest ever. Now, I'm sure somebody's beaten my record since, et cetera, et cetera. It's not about me bragging. It's about telling you what are classic negotiation strategies, okay? That's exactly what Beto and the Republicans did. Oh, I'll tell you what, we're going to cut Planned Parenthood. Oh, boy, you better watch Planned Parenthood. And then finally they, say, all right, we won't cut Planned Parenthood. But thank you for the $38.5 billion in cuts, including the stuff like cutting the IRS, which is what we really cared about, so that our rich donors don't get audited.
And now we have a new sponsor, Thrillist. They're very cool because they hook you up with really interesting things going on in your town or any town you might be in that you don't know about.
Right. They also let you know where the best restaurants, bars, venues are.
Thrillist.com/TYT.